To find the fuel pump assembly to your 2006 and later Yamaha Outboard engine, you'll want to navigate to the Fuel Injection Pump 1 diagram on boats.net. This will open an exploded diagram of the fuel system and a list of corresponding parts. The fuel pump assembly is number 23 in this particular diagram, but that number could change depending on your unit, but they're all going to look similar. You may find that your outboard has more than one fuel pump assembly diagram listed. Sometimes there's 1 and 2, some models may have up to 5 assembly diagrams. If your model has multiple fuel assembly diagrams, you'll just find that these are just another way to show you how all the fuel system parts come together. The fuel system on a modern outboard motor is rather complex, with components such as a vapor separator tank, otherwise known as a VST, a high pressure fuel rail, and not one but 2 fuel pumps. An internal high pressure pump and an external low pressure pump. Thankfully, you only need to know about the low pressure fuel pump, because the high pressure side unfortunately requires specialist know-how and specialist tools, and that should be left to your Yamaha dealer. If someone tells you they replaced their fuel pump over the weekend, they're more than likely referring to the low pressure fuel pump that's located on the outside of the engine. The Yamaha fuel pump assembly, also referred to simply as the fuel pump, does exactly what the title suggests. It pumps fuel from your boat's fuel tank to the engine or power head. The fuel pump is a self-contained unit that cannot be taken apart or serviced. When it's working, all is well in the world, but if it fails, you'll have to replace it with a new assembly. The fuel pump has just one job, and that's to send fuel to the power head. If the pump doesn't work, the engine will not run. It's really that simple. But oftentimes, the fuel pump will develop a fault before it completely goes bad. A faulty fuel pump doesn't deliver the required amount of fuel to the engine, which would cause you not to be able to run it at wide open throttle. A faulty fuel pump can also cause the engine to run roughly and stall while idling. And of course, just because the engine's not running properly doesn't necessarily mean the fuel pump's the problem. It could be a couple simple things like a blown fuse or electrical problems not causing the spark plugs to fire, or something as simple as a loose connection to the fuel pump. So you want to make sure that you track all these down before replacing the fuel pump, because it's an expensive part and you want to know exactly what's wrong before we dump all that cash. Another common problem that could keep your engine from running properly is fuel filters. A blocked fuel filter prevents the flow of fuel to the power head, which would not allow your engine to run properly. And you'll want to check these out between your 100-hour services, so definitely mark that on your list of things to check, because that could be your problem as well. To give you a little helpful advice, when ordering your fuel pump, go out to the outboard and inspect the inlet and outlet fuel lines going into the pump for any kind of damage, because if they're damaged, you want to go ahead and replace those. Fuel is something you definitely don't want leaking all over the engine. And if they need to be replaced, you can do it right then and don't have to wait for more parts to show up. These parts can be located in the Fuel Injection Pump 2 diagram. The parts I'm referring to are numbers 28, 27, 5, and 8. This number could change depending on your model, but it'll be in one of the fuel injection pump diagrams. And just to keep the confusion down, we all call fuel lines, of course, fuel lines, but the manufacturer calls these fuel pipes. So just keep that in mind when you're navigating the diagrams. That way you can know exactly what you need to grab. As well as fuel pump assemblies, boats.net carries hundreds of OEM manufactured parts at a fraction of MSRP. Browse through our component pages to find each and every part for your outboard application. Just want to say thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.